Je m'appelle Jaco Van Dormael, je viens de Belgique, je suis réalisateur.
In one word, what European films mean to you?
For me, making European films is sharing dreams.
What do you like the most about your job?
My job is making you believe everything is possible, and doubting about it, of course.
What is your dream film project?
A never-ending film, perhaps. I don't know.
Do you have any funny story about collaboration in different language?
Yeah, when we are on a set with different languages, there is one secret language that nobody understands. It's Dutch. It's interesting.
How do you direct people who don't speak your language?
What does the media program mean to you?
Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, media, happy birthday to you. We all love stories.
So we're very happy to have Jaco Van Dormael with us this afternoon. He is the living embodiment of all that's best in Belgian cinema. He is with Les Frères Dardenne, Bruno Dumont, Michael Roskam, one of the directors who's really put Belgian cinema on the map in the last few years. And he's done it with just 3 or 4 films spread over 25 years. In 1991, Toto the Hero came out and immediately captivated audiences and the jury of the Camera d'Or Award in Cannes, went on to win a César for Best Foreign Film in France. And his second film, The Eighth Day, grossed something like $33 million worldwide on a budget of just $5 million. So Jaco,
I didn't know that. That's great. I didn't know that.
Well,
yeah, great.
Research. We want to know what is the secret behind this success. How did you set up Toto the Hero? How did you get it off the ground?
I love that when you ask me what is the key to the success, because it's I made both things, successful films and unsuccessful films, and personally my biggest what I consider as my biggest success are my biggest commercial failures. My favorite is Mr. Nobody, that did nothing, and but that is I'm the most proud of. Yeah. So I don't know how to make a success. I've always the feeling that it's a miracle, that making films is like dropping a message in the bottle in the sea, and perhaps somebody will find it, perhaps nobody, and when somebody finds it and says, "Wow, I read the message, I like it," it's a miracle. Because I don't know what people feel or see. You know, when people come to me, they say, "I loved your film." I don't know what they have seen. If they say, "I hated your film," I don't know what they have seen. And I personally will never see my films for the first time, because I know them by heart. I will never be a viewer of my film. So it's a strange misunderstanding, but sometimes very pleasant misunderstanding, sometimes less pleasant.
I think I know one of the reasons for your success. The opening scene, the opening 10 minutes of Toto the Hero is absolutely extraordinary for a first feature film, because it's so confident. You know exactly what you want to do with the images, with the characterization, with the montage. Everything comes together in those first few minutes, and you see Michel Bouquet, the great French actor, in close-up, lying on his bed and remembering his life. And immediately, I felt gripped, and I think everybody else felt gripped by that. And if you have an audience in the first 10 minutes, you've almost won the day, haven't you?
Yeah, I also like when you said you exactly know what you want, because I don't. I don't, because I know at the end what I want, but writing a script is a strange process, because you are a bit, for 90% of the time you are a bad scriptwriter. You rewrite it and it doesn't work, and that's the reason why I rewrite all my scripts. It's because it takes time, and because it's a bad script for years, you know.
Do you work with anybody else, or?
For my very last one, I worked with Thomas Günzig, and it was, I should have done that before, because it's more fun writing had to be two. Also because if you don't have a good idea for the whole afternoon and you are alone, it's a bad afternoon. But if you are with a friend, at least if you don't have a good idea, you had a good afternoon, you know. Yeah, that's right. And here, yeah, and the scriptwriter is just a good scriptwriter the last 10% of the time, you know. Mm-hmm. And it's the same on the set. And on the set, I don't know. I search and I doubt, and it's by doubting that by not knowing that I go somewhere.
But you don't rehearse, you told me just before we came on stage. You don't rehearse. You prefer a read-through with the cast. And
yeah, I don't know how to, for every actor, I think I try to find what they need, but some actors need a lot of explanation, other actors need not a lot, you know. And so I don't rehearsal, but I make just a reading about the scene, and if they have questions, we can work. If we can change things, it's a good moment, so we don't do it on the set.
But the choreography of your films is very, very skillful, so you must spend time with the director of photography planning the blocking and the movement to the camera and so on.
Yeah, I work very closely with the DOP, very closely with everybody. I have a good friend of mine who he's a director, invited his mother once on the set, and at the end, because she's his mother, what is director, you know, what is your job? And at the end of the day, she said, aren't you ashamed? You are the only one who doesn't do anything on the set, and you make comments on the work of the other ones, you know? And it's a little bit like that, you know? Yeah. I just make comments on the work of the other ones. Yeah. And we try together to, it's like dancing with people, you know? It's like an orchestra, it's like, and at the moment you can see that the camera is acting as much as the actor, and the set is giving as much light as the sun, you know, and that everything interferes with everything, and that's a big fun. That's a big pleasure, in fact.
How did you discover Pascal Duquesne, this wonderfully gifted actor who has been in 2 of your 3 films, and also the little short film you made with the Lumiere brothers camera? How did you meet him?
He was in all my films. In fact, he will be, because at the end of every film he asked me, "And Jaco, for next film, what will I play?" And then I have to write him something for the next one. So he's in all my films. I discovered, in fact, before making long feature films, I made short films, and it's a pleasure, short films, because it's possible to make a film a year. You know, to write a film, to shoot a film, and to edit a film every year. And I made 3 with sort of different actors, mental handicapped actors, and they were so great that I wanted to make a long feature film with them. And they started, after making the short films, to make theater, and Pascal joined them in the theater work, and that's where I met him. And it's my pleasure, is especially because they are really great actors, you know. And in fact, when you make a successful film, it's a little bit like in, do you say carousel in English? Yeah. Carousel, it's
carousel, yes, a roundabout.
Yeah. In Belgium, we say when you have, quand tu tires la floche, tu as un tour gratuit. When you take when you take this, you have a free ride. Yeah. And when you have a successful film, you have a free ride. And after Toto, I said, okay, perhaps I won't have a free ride anymore, and now it's really the moment to make a long feature film with them. You know, that was not so easy, because it was easy because it was a free ride, but everybody was very concerned about why don't you use actors to pretend they are mental handicapped, you know, like in so many other films. Yeah.
Rain Man, for example.
And I said, no, they are much better, you know. They are so good. They can do things nobody else can do.
Yeah. And Daniel Auteuil and he got on so well in The Eighth Day. I mean, they were a perfect pair, weren't they?
Yeah. At the beginning, Daniel let him a little space, you know. And after 2 or 3 days, he realized that he'll have to struggle to
keep up.
to be on screen, you know. And yeah, what Pascal said when they both had the Palme in Cannes for interpretation, and Pascal said, "I'm the best actor, but Daniel is also very good, you know."
I think it was the first time in the history of Cannes that the Best Actor award was divided between two performers, actually.
Yeah, and they both deserved it, yeah.
Now, your career is, your feature film career is almost exactly the same age as the media program. Were they involved from the beginning in your career? Have you had, you've been helped a lot by what they've done?
Yeah, for all my films, they helped me a lot. For Toto, it was the very beginning. So it was, and you know, here in Belgium, we have to make co-production. Otherwise, we cannot do co-production between Namur, Liège, and Ostend. You know, it's we have to be a little larger. If you drive 20 minutes, you have to change to speak another language. So it's very natural for us to try to make it larger and to make it more European. And it was the beginning, and it was really great because it was a co-production between France, Belgium, and Germany, with German actors, French-speaking actors, Flemish-speaking actors, we were at the very. Toto was at the very beginning of media, and it was the first film who gives the money back also. And that's really good when you give.
So you must be popular in the corridors.
When you give the money back, it means that when it helps you to make the film and you can give the money back, it's really a good process.
Of course.
And for the Brand New Testament is also with media and Mr. Nobody also.
Are you? Do you handle your own production, or do you try to keep that aside and do you concentrate just on the creative elements?
It's for the very last film that I become my own producer for the Brand New Testament. God Exists. He lives in Brussels, and I thought for that film it would be great not to have somebody that can tell you he should drink less, smoke less, because it was a little. It was a.
But there's this wonderful, in a way you're like Terrence Malick or Robert Bresson. There's this gap between your feature films, and it's not because you haven't got something to say, and I assume it's not because you can't raise the money. Is it because you want to take the script to a stage at which it's absolutely ready to shoot?
It takes time. That's the process of writing for me was always the most long process, you know. And the reason why I wake up when I'm shooting is because there is a script. You know? If the script is not good, it's a nightmare to be on a set. If the script is good, everything is easy. So I have to know the script well, and to have. I know it. I have to know it like my house. You know, every little corner, every space, and to adapt myself to anything. In French, in fact, you don't say director, you say réalisateur.
Metteur en scène.
Réalisateur. And it means the guy who has to be in front of the reality. He doesn't direct anything. No, he is in front of the reality. It rains. Okay, what can we do? You know.
Do you write every day? Are you very disciplined, or do you just like to be lazy for a while and then go back to it?
Like a pianist, 3 hours a day, 3 pages a day, every day. Except Sunday.
And the rest of the time you dream. It's nice.
But when you have young kids, it's great to be a scriptwriter. You know, but that's 3.5, it's finished, and you go to the school, and you can you can really enjoy. That's the best. If you have young children, it's the best the best work you can do. You know. And I think now my kids are grown up, and I'm a grandfather, and I begin to speed up a little bit. You know.
Speaking of your family, your brother composed some music for your films. That's a very unusual combination. And was he already an established composer when you asked him to do the music for Toto?
Very established, but only in jazz. You know.
Jazz.
In jazz,
okay.
Yeah. Right. He did really the music because I was his brother. You know. He said, you know, music for film is really that's not music. You know, that's just. But it's awful. But I will do it because you are my brother.
You chose also the wonderful hit tune of Charles Trenet, Boom, to run like a leitmotif through that film. And what's so good is that it gives it an optimistic wallop, actually. Yeah. It really keeps it above. Otherwise, it could just be depressing, but it's not, because of the boom comes back at certain crucial points.
Yeah, just like in life, it can be depressing, but with some funny songs, it's great, you know.
Yeah. Have you been tempted ever to, especially with the success you've had, to leave Belgium and make films in Hollywood, or if not Hollywood, perhaps in Paris or London?
Yeah, it's true that I don't stay in Belgium because of the weather. I like to live here for a strange reason. I'm not sure about what reason, but a strange reason, because I feel well here. I received a lot of proposition from US but in fact the most important is to have a good script. You know, I could do a film anywhere. But you need a good script, and I read hundreds of scripts, and perhaps I'm not able to recognize a good script, but I didn't have the feeling that I had good scripts. Yeah. And sometimes it's less work to write it yourself than to read for years.
And you have good technical facilities here in Belgium. I mean, some of the Belgian technical advances have become famous around the world, like Barco's Galaxy Studios 3D. Ben Stassen's made an impact with films sometimes in 3D, and that came out of this country. And so you presumably have all the facilities you need here in Belgium. You don't have to go abroad, as some people in smaller countries do.
Yeah, but I think all around the world you have great writers, great actors, in Estonia, in New Zealand, in tiny countries where, I think it's the same everywhere. It's not more concentrated in one country than in another, but it's possible to make films everywhere. Yeah. And it's great to have this, to see what you can. When you work with two different countries, you know, you realize that it's you share not only the film, the direction, but you share a way of thinking at the moment, because films is not only a sort of it has to be entertaining, it has to be a pleasure, but it's also the way we think, you know, and that's something important to share between people who speak different language, who don't think it's to share our doubts, because I think there are films that increase the state of the world, and films that interrogate the state of the world. You know, there are films that increase, that says, okay, there are the good ones and the bad ones. The bad have to go in prison. That is, they establish the state of the world like it is, and others that make you doubt, and it's so good to doubt, you know, not to be sure. Right. And that's something that that a film from another country, from another culture can give you, or even from your own culture. But
I was going to ask you, when you were studying film at INSAS in Brussels, were there any filmmakers or particular films that you really were impressed by at a formative age?
Tarkovsky. Tarkovsky's Mirror. And it was a strange experience, because I went to see Tarkovsky in the corner at the Cinematheque. It was screened 12 times, and I went 12 times. Wow. And I didn't understand the end, but no, that's a joke. And I was fascinated by that film, because I didn't know how it works, but it really moved me, and I didn't understand why. And technically, what is working like that emotionally in this film. And after that, I wanted to see the Stalker. And after 10 minutes, I was fascinated by the film also. And after 10 minutes, I realized I've seen that film before. 3 years before, I saw it in a theater, and I went out of the theater because it was so boring. And 3 or 5 years later,
Yeah.
it was one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen.
Well, that happens to, that happened to
yeah.
me with L'Aventura. I remember I saw L'Aventura and thought it was incredibly boring.
Yeah.
And then I saw it again, you know, a few months later, and suddenly it clicked. And
Yeah, yeah.
you realize it's a masterpiece.
And at the moment, something becomes visible. It's not. So I never say that it's of a film that it's a bad film, or because it's just a film that perhaps I'm unable to see, like some people don't see a color, or
Yeah.
like a dog smells something that I cannot smell. You know.
It's interesting you mentioned the Cinematheque, because during the lunch interval here today, a delegate from Nicaragua came up to me and said he was interested in the history of film archives. And I told him about Jacques Ledoux, who had his Cinematheque here, and I remember the Rue Ravenstein was the address. And he was, I mean, all kinds of filmmakers and young filmmakers like you almost worshipped at the Cinematheque Belge, because he really was a rebel. He used to he was different to Henri Langlois in Paris. I think he was more, and he can be seen, and he's immortalized in that great film La Jetée by Chris Marker. He has a character. But you must have seen a lot of films there, and your generation must have gone to the Cinematheque.
Yeah, the Cinematheque was really a good place where to learn how to make film, and not how to make films, but to make you doubt, or to make you see it's possible to think, to make films that you thought it was not possible to do. Yeah.
Now, your editing is, I think, brilliant. And how much time do you spend on the post-production?
Yeah, my editing is editing of my editor, and it takes usually twice the time as the shooting does. So for Mr. Nobody, Mr. Nobody was the longest process. It was 5 years of writing, I think, then financing, preparation, 9 months preparation, 6 months of shooting, 6 months, nearly a year of editing, and then sound design and finishing. So 10 years were like that.
Yeah. Have you ever adjusted a film after a first sneak screening, and you see the reaction of the audience, and you go back to the editing room and maybe change it a little bit?
Yeah, back and forth always. Yeah, not to an audience, to friends. Because I never think to an audience when I make films. Sometimes because I don't know who are the people who will see my film, but with close friends it's very interesting, because they are they are not gentle, you know.
Orson
They say what they think, and I can see in their eyes what they think.
Orson Welles used to boast that he never saw his films after they were made. But I think that's very difficult in today's world, because when you make a film, you go to all these 101 festivals that exist, which didn't used to exist. And now your film goes around and you are asked to appear there and you're interviewed. So you really probably have to sit through your film many more times than you ever expected you would.
Here and there, when there is a sort of, when there is an Italian version or German version, of course I want to see it. Otherwise, I know the end.
One of the advantages of being in Belgium is that films are not dubbed. And when you've seen those versions in Italy or Spain or Germany, do you sometimes wince? Do you feel, no, the dubbing has somehow changed a little bit the atmosphere of the film?
Everything changed. Everything's changed. That was the language, of course, if it's there, but the screening room, the projector, the colors are never the same, the sound is never the same in one theater or another one. And you know, we often see in cinema that there are three writings in the cinema. The first writing is script writing, the second writing is on the set, and the third writing is the editing. But we never speak about the most important, that the fourth writing is how the viewer rewrites the whole thing. Yeah. Where he is and what he remembers, what he doesn't remember, how he make it himself, and that's the most interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got a comic side to you, which comes out particularly in the Brand New Testament, I think, from what I've seen of it. And can you tell us a little bit about that for those perhaps who've come from abroad and haven't seen that film? It's about the simple premise that God is alive and living in Brussels. Why Brussels?
because he made a bad choice. No, because we said, okay, where should if God exists, where should he be? Yeah, not in Venice, not in a sunny place, not in Brussels where it's rainy, where nothing works, where there was a traffic jam all the time, and there are people working everywhere, and nothing works. And since he's creating chaos. For his own fun, it's a great place to create chaos, you know.
But the film, you said, wasn't quite the success that the first two. Well, you said it wasn't quite the commercial success that you'd hoped it would be.
The Brand New Testament, yeah, was very successful. But Mr. Nobody was not a success.
Okay.
It's just my personal success.
Right.
But.
And it's been shown abroad. Have you sold the films abroad as well, outside Belgium?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It worked very well. Yeah, in Italy, even in Poland. I was not kidnapped by dozens of nuns. So. Yeah.
And how there seems to be an interval of 3-4 years between each of your films. What is on the horizon now? What are you dreaming up? What's your next film in mind? Can you tell us that? Or?
Oh, in fact, the best part is after a film, doing nothing. You know, I could be professional in that, and it's by doing nothing that the desire come back and that ideas come back, and after that, I need to have a discipline, writing 3 hours a day, 3 pages a day for a while. And
yeah, but it's not easy to be lazy. Ingmar Bergman told me once that he loved the American series Dynasty, and I said, Ingmar, how can you like this? Is just, it's rubbish, you know. And he said, yes, but I like to be lazy. And he said, remember, only the truly efficient can be truly lazy. So you must be very efficient in the way you do your other things in order to have that time of doing nothing. Must be.
Yeah. And since a few years, I dream much more, and it's much more easy because it's sometimes I need a scene, and I wake up with the scene, and so I work less.
Well, there's an element of surrealism in nearly all your films. I think.
For example, in the Brand New Testament, every character has a dream, and I just made this dream for all this. I just in the evening thought, okay, what could it be? And in the morning, I wake up with a dream without working. It's very lazy.
So it's been exactly 25 years since Toto the Hero came out, and when you first went to Cannes, that was the first time the film was shown, I think, at Cannes. And you had a press screening in the morning, 8:30 or something like that, I think. It must have been an early morning. And you wouldn't have gone to it, but you would have gone to the press conference afterwards, and you must have known from the reaction at that press conference that you had a hit on your hands.
Yeah. I was pretty young. In fact, I didn't know where was Cannes when I was there. I know there was a festival, Cannes, but I know it was in France, but I didn't know where. So it was the first time I went there. It's interesting. It's really crazy because there were, my first souvenir of the first screening is that a lot of second screening, because suddenly a buzz arrives and everybody wants to see you. At the beginning, nobody wants to see your film, and suddenly there is a buzz. Everybody wants to see it, and crowd was was entering into the theater, and on the marches there was one shoe, like in Cinderella. Somebody entered and left his shoe to be able to see the film, and without knowing what it was. A fucking Belgian film. It's. And Cannes is something. Yeah, it's the first question of the success. I think it has something to do with that. It's like the crowded restaurant where everybody wants to enter into a crowded restaurant, and nobody wants to enter into an empty restaurant.
That's true.
And perhaps the cook is the same.
Yeah, that's right.
It's personally, I was cooking in both restaurants, the crowded and the empty. and the food was really the same. You know? But I think everybody wants to. Yeah, at the moment, especially in Cannes, you know, everybody wants to be interested by the same thing that other people are interested. And for financing a film, it's pretty the same. It's if you need 5 co-producers, you have quickly 2. Then the third is more difficult. You wait for the fourth, but when the fourth enters, the 2 first leave the film. And at the moment you have just 1, and then you have no co-producer at all for 6 months, and suddenly somebody comes back, and suddenly you have everybody wants to make your film. And so it's like wind changes, and at the moment you have to take the wind and don't hesitate and shoot.
Playing the devil's advocate for a moment, do you think that the commercial failure of Mr. Nobody has, in a strange way, something to do with the fact that it costs so much? I think it was about 37 million euros budget.
No, I could have made it with more money even, you know. I'm very imaginative with that.
I mean, if you made it for 3 million, would it have been perhaps more of a success? I don't know. But
I really don't know. I don't want to try. You know.
But you didn't have that kind of budget for Brand New Testament.
No, it was
so this was a
little budget, yeah. That was the most expensive. It was too expensive, of course, but it was fun. Very fun to do, and it's very. It's great to really be able to do anything until the end, and for the other one I have to.
And it was shot in a variety of locations, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a sort of infinity of worlds. So it's
Canada, I think, and
prehistory, Mars. You know, a lot of It was open bar, you know, open mind, and it was really fun to do. But it's true that with I think at the moment I think the best situation of a director would be as a musician, you know, if it's possible to make a film like a pianist plays piano, you know, without every time he wants to play piano finding a couple of millions to spend it, and after that, oh no, we don't have it. Oh, you have it. Yeah.
Looking back at the time you spent learning to be a filmmaker and all those short films you mentioned, because it seems to me that the best directors have done that they have gone through the process of learning to make short films, and then maybe TV films or moyen métrage. Would you say that is good advice for young filmmakers, that they shouldn't, as sometimes happens, just having a first feature film without any experience, just jumping right in? Do you think it's wise to spend some years doing those shorts and practicing?
I think short films is the genre. In fact, it's. I stopped short films because at the moment you have to earn your life, and it's impossible with short films. You know, I earned my life in theater making short films, but it's like writing short stories. You know, it's possible to write short stories and never something long, and it's a genre. It's possible to make only short films. I had to after making 10 short films, I had to relearn how to make I had to learn how to make a long feature on that, because it's very difficult. A short story you can have everything in front of you and a clear view of everything, and in a long feature film it starts behind and it turns like that, and you never can have all the film in your mind at the same time. So you have to work by section. You work on that section and you put it with that section, and you cross this, because it's so many elements.
Yeah. Have you been tempted by the theater? Have you?
I come from the theater, and I do theater from time to time. It's like I just made an opera last week, and I a theater play the few months before.
More like Ingmar Bergman again. He did that too.
I think it's the only thing you can compare, I think.
No, but this combination, the link, particularly directing actors, I think that's something you.
Yeah, it's a sort of holiday. It's on that you know, making a film is 5 5 years. Making a play is five months, and an opera is 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's a different rhythm.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say we've got another 5 minutes or so, and if there's someone who would like to ask a question to Jaco, we can take them. We have microphones, I think. We have a microphone on either side. Yes, someone there. So if anybody got a question? Yes, right down here in the third row.
Thank you. My question is, as a writer or director, there should be, I think, a line with the producing. Are you thinking when you're writing or directing all the time about producing, or is the producing comes at the end of the writing? Or, I mean, where is the line? As a producer, how far do you go? You have other producers? So they're doing, is the part that you think about, I will produce this part, or is it coming afterwards? Or are you producing in the beginning when you're writing? Are you producing in the start of the project?
No, I don't think about producing at all when I'm writing. It's there's problems starts after. It's what I'm writing. It's totally free. It's totally. I don't realize it's so expensive, and I always write when I start a film. I always think, okay, this will be a little film, not expensive. Even when I wrote Mr. Nobody, I thought, okay, let's try a little film, and after writing it becomes a little too expensive. Yeah. And then I work with my friends on the set design to find how to make it with less, and it's a good exercise, you know. For example, in the Brand New Testament, the most expensive scenes were recreating a camping in the 60s in Spain, you know, and it was not so necessary. So we put little toys on sand, and there was a cartoon, Spain, and it costed $50, you know. And then we can do other things with the money, you know. It's then it's not it's not recreating the reality. It's just okay. You are in the narrative part of the film, and not in the not trying to reproduce the reality.
Thank you.
Another question? About the BS, I can see a lady about halfway up. Keep waving so that we can get the mic. There's right down here, okay. We get the microphone to you?
If you spend all this time writing, how do you decide that it's...
No, the microphone is coming, sorry, so otherwise it won't be recorded. Just here it is.
I'm sorry, I thought I'm so close so you'll hear. If you spend all this time writing in this intense process, how do you decide that it's finished?
There was a French writer who said, I don't know who was it, who says a book is finished when you un livre est fini quand vous avez marre d'écrire. A book is finished when you have enough of writing, you know? And that means okay, you have to make something else of it. But I'm for years and years I'm not. I have fun to write, you know? And what I like the most is rewriting. You know, writing is a thing, but rewriting that's the biggest fun. I had a Czech teacher who came from the farm, who was teacher for 4 years in Brussels, and after that he went to New York and LA. Frank Daniel, and he taught us to write on cards, little cards. You know, when you write. And I do it before. He was for his. It was more like editing, but I start really my writing on little cards, any sort of ideas. And when I have a few hundred cards, I take 3 tables for the first act, second act, and I just try. Okay, what is going with what, and some ideas go together, and then I add cards, and then I begin after that to write from the beginning to the end. And then I make new cards with all the scene and I reorganize it. And most of the time it's like between 50 and 20 times go back and forth between writing and putting in and editing on cards. And it's really interesting. It's like editing. It's suddenly a scene is very different because of what precedes and what's after. And then you make with 3 characters, you make 2, with 3 scenes, you make 1, and it begins to be more and more organic and natural, and more. I have the feeling that more I work and less the work is visible, and more it's natural and more it looks easy, you know.
And that gives you a kind of storyboard in a way. It's kind of like a literary storyboard what you're creating.
Yeah, it's like an editing, an editing room for script. These 3 tables. And sometimes some cards fall down and then they're not in the film.
Well, there's one more question. I'm afraid it's right down here. Okay, so
hello, I'm here.
Okay.
Mr. Van Dormael, it's a huge pleasure to have you here. Just a quick question. Do you actually allow yourself some improvisations when you do shooting? So you said that good script is the most important thing, but I mean, for this kind of really, really complicated structures, is there any space for improvisation where you feel that needs to be done and you feel it right when you do the shooting? Thank you.
Thank you. There is always space for even if everything is very prepared, it's always great to have a space for improvisation, because in fact the most interesting is that the actors are in bones and flesh, and that is already something very different from what I expect, and it's much better, because I live with ghosts for years. You know, I have conversation with ghosts. I write what they say, and all these ghosts. We speak with other ghosts. I see faces, but out of focus. Sometimes they are blonde, sometimes they are dark-haired, and suddenly, when I choose an actor, it's like recognizing somebody or something into this actor. And it's a very moving movement. It's one of the most moving moments when I recognize the character inside the actor, and suddenly it's flesh and bone, and it's much, much better than anything I could have imagined. And that is the place for the improvisation. It's because at the moment it's real. It's a real set. It's a chair. It's an actor. It's a camera. It's a 50 millimeter. And with all these people, at the moment it's concrete and much more polyphonic, and with much more details and much more complexity than anything that I could have imagined before. And that's the most interesting. And some actors need improvisation, like Benoit. He's great in redoing, and some actors need to have very concrete directions. And I don't have a method for directing actors. I just try to know what they need and to direct them the way they need, you know.
Well, Jaco, we could talk all night like this, but a cocktail beckons. And
we won't miss that.
I know we won't miss that. So thank you so much for spending the time and coming to us.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thank you.